Hey, welcome back. A little bit of a gap between the last video and this one, but that is because I have been torturing myself with the films of Ray Dennis Steckler, and I was working up to his 1971 film, The Chooper, better known as Blood Shack. I guess I would say very slightly better known. Uh, These are both VHS covers, two different VHS covers. I think this film is so obscure that I could not even find an original release poster. I'm actually not even sure if there was a theatrical release. It was made in 1971. Obviously, these VHS covers are newer than that. I could find no release info anywhere, only that it exists. I'm lucky, or maybe unlucky, that I actually found the movie out there to watch. But yeah, there's no release date on IMDb or anywhere else that I could find, just 1971. No distribution info anywhere. So yeah, let's talk about Ray Dennis Steckler. Here's a picture of Ray Dennis Steckler acting in one of his own films, which he often did. Sometimes because he couldn't find anyone to play the part, or sometimes because whatever actor was supposed to play the part left and he had to just do it himself. This still is from Steckler's best film, in my opinion, The Thrill Killers. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Here's a picture of Steckler that's more recent. So, things started here with the incredibly strange creatures who stopped living and became mixed up zombies. This is Steckler's first horror film. I think he had one or two movies before this, but they're so obscure that I didn't find them. But I did find this one. This is a very cool poster, in my opinion. And here it says, starring Cash Flag. That is Steckler. He just cast himself under a different name, probably so that people wouldn't figure out that he was doing it himself. It also shows here that Carolyn Brandt, says introducing Carolyn Brandt. That's his wife. His wife is in almost every single one of his movies. Now, to be honest, neither one of them is really terrible acting-wise, but the stories of the movies and the execution of the movies that they do are not great. In fact, when I think about the worst movies that I've seen come through 1970, 1971, the only director I can think of that I would say is worse than Steckler would be Andy Milligan. So if you've watched these, you know my thoughts on Andy Milligan. Andy Milligan still holds the title of worst horror director of the early 70s as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, this one came out in like 1964. Here's the thing. There are no zombies in it. So that's not great. What happens is there's a carnival in California, and actually it's an amusement park in real life. And there's a fortune teller there, and she's ugly, but the only thing that makes her ugly is they put like a fake mole on her. They didn't really make her look that ugly, and she tries to have sex with men, and then when they refuse her, she pours acid on their faces, and then she locks them in like a cage. But like, they're not zombies, they're just disfigured. So then there's a whole bunch of boring stuff in the middle of the movie. It wasn't very long, like the script wasn't long enough, so they just put a bunch of footage of like roller coaster rides and other amusement park type footage. The beginning was kind of cool with the acid, and then the middle was so slow. Basically, Steckler plays this guy who goes into like a burlesque show, and his girlfriend gets mad at him, but he like falls in love with the dancer, and then the psychic like hypnotizes him and then makes him kill people, and then at the end all the creatures get unleashed, and even though they're supposed to be acid victims, they actually look like full monsters. I don't know if you can, well, you can take a look at this guy's face, and then if you look down here, let's see, can I get to it? No. Down here, it basically looks like a skinless skeleton head type deal. They don't look like zombies. They aren't zombies. They also don't look like disfigured acid victims. They just look like monsters, which I actually like that they look like monsters, but it made no sense. And this is one of Steckler's best films. After this, he made his, what I would say is his actual best film that I mentioned earlier, The Thrill Killers. As you can see, Cash Flag is the star, okay? And if you look down here, you can't see it probably, but it does have Carolyn Brandt. I guess she wasn't the main, that's not her. Carolyn Brandt was the secondary character, and we had Liz Renee as the main woman. Now, this movie was crazy. It's basically about three guys that escape a psych ward, and at least two of them are totally crazy. A third one kind of like just came along, and the third one calls his friend, played by Steckler, who is also a crazy person. And actually, this movie, I think it came out in 1964, 1 year after Blood Feast, and I would say this is the most violent movie ever to be put out at the time, aside from Blood Feast. But it's actually better than Blood Feast. I actually rewatched Blood Feast to compare it. This one was actually pretty good. I think like 12 people get killed in this movie. 2 people's heads get cut off, and a lot of the action is on screen, which in this time, especially with really low budget movies, they do a lot of kills off screen. But this one was crazy. Really crazy. After I watched this one, I was like excited that like maybe he was going to get better and better since the first one wasn't that good. I would give this one a 6 out of 10 because a lot of the acting isn't bad and the effects don't look good, but just like the effort was pretty good. I would give this one a 5 out of 10. Now as we go forward, then he kind of went into other genres. Now this is called Rat, Fink and Booboo, okay? And I think this came out in 64, 5, 6, somewhere in there. I don't know really why, but Strange Creatures was in color, Thrill Killers was in black and white, and Rat, Fink and Booboo was in black and white, except they like pretended it wasn't. So depending on the scene, they would change the color. So like at night, they would make it, black and blue and white. And then like in the morning, it was kind of reddish. And then other times it was kind of like another color. The first half of this movie is a very poorly done thriller where someone is calling the lead woman and harassing her on the phone, and somewhat interestingly, she is not that bothered by it. She keeps trying to talk to the people that are harassing her, and they don't really want to talk to her. They're just trying to scare her, and she's not really that scared. So eventually they kidnap her, and then they basically call up her boyfriend and say, if you don't give us some amount of money, $50,000, we're going to kill your girlfriend. And so halfway through the movie, the boyfriend decides he's going to go into his closet with his friend, and they come out basically wearing pajamas and like winter hats, and that they are now superheroes and they're going to fight the kidnappers. I guess at the time, the Batman TV show was very popular, the 60s one with Adam West. And we talked about that earlier because Victor Buono played like an Egyptian villain in it. Anyway, that was popular, so they're trying to spoof on it. And out of nowhere, this gorilla comes out, or a guy in a gorilla suit, and they have to fight him. And almost this whole second half of the movie has no dialogue, and it's just really poor fight scenes. Also, one of these guys plays the guitar, and they kind of like race around on a motorcycle or a moped or something. It really fell off the rails. The first half was like bad, but the second half was like a bad joke. So I gave that one a 2 out of 10. Then we had the Lemon Grove Kids, which I honestly could not watch. It was so stupid. It was supposed to be a children's film. I mean, it was just so dumb I couldn't watch it all. So I can't talk much about it, but Cash Flag, or Ray Dennis Steckler, was the main character. So that was the Lemon Grove Kids. Okay. Then we had Body Fever, which I was a little excited for because this one was 1969. After some time went by, I was hoping maybe he got better. This is, again, the VHS cover because I can't find any theatrical release information. Once again, Steckler is the main character, although he didn't even put his own name on here, or Cash Flag. And then his wife is the main female character. And it was really boring. It was about the woman, played by his wife, Carolyn Brandt. She stole $150,000 worth of heroin from a drug dealer. And Steckler plays a private detective who's hired to find her. When he finds her, he's like, why have you been hiding? And she's like, oh, I stole all these drugs. And he's like, oh, let's sell them and split the money. Okay, like, not a very good private investigator, but then it's just boring. Like, it's just really poorly done. There's almost no action. The dialogue is stupid. It's not good. I gave it a 2 out of 10. At this point, I'm like, okay, I don't think I like this guy or his movies. The first 2 were okay, but they're just getting worse and worse. So what do? Oh, now we've got Cynthia the Devil's Doll. Absolutely horrible. I don't know how I stayed watching this whole thing. It's about a woman who... So, to be fair, I actually watched this for 1970. Maybe like a year ago. No, I think it was like in January. So like 6 months ago. And it was really bad, and I don't consider it to be horror, so I never did a video on it. Basically, this woman, something happens to her where she's traumatized as a kid. I don't know if her father rapes her or she's abused by her father, or she walks in on her father doing something crazy, something like that. But then she goes to a psychologist, and there's all these... I don't know, she's like 18 or something, but she's got like these like sexual fears. It's just really bad. It's a really bad sexploitation movie where they try to put some kind of like she's a killer in there. It's just bad. Horrible. 2 out of 10. I'm only, like, every single one of these has like some sort of watchability factor, but very, very low. I also do respect the extreme DIY nature of these movies, but they're just bad. Alright, so that was Cynthia. Then he did a few adult like purely adult films, which I have not tracked down. I don't know if I should bother. But a couple of them involve vampires and witches, even though they're like fully XXX adult films. I don't know if I'll actually bother to check those out at any point. But then we have the Chooper, which is not good. This cover makes no sense. But it's about a killer called the Chooper. Actually, I will give this movie credit for 2 things. First of all, I would say it's a slasher, like a really bad slasher. And there haven't really been any slashers yet. So, he kind of... I don't think this influenced anyone, but he kind of made one of the first slashers. I don't know when this was released, so I don't know if this came before Hands of the Ripper or not, which you have heard me say, in my opinion, is the oldest slasher that I can find, which predates by 3 years Black Christmas, which a lot of people say is the first slasher. Anyway, this is one. It's just bad. Like, actually, let's see if I can go back to that Blood Shack here. They obviously marketed it as a slasher in the 80s when the VHS came out. So that is some pretty good evidence. Also, this does look like represent the film pretty well. It's about this house on a ranch, and anyone that goes in the house gets killed by the Chooper. I'm trying to, like, the movie doesn't make sense, okay? But I'm trying to think of how we can really, like, put this. We don't know if the Chooper is a supernatural being. At the end of the movie, they mention that the Chooper has been killing people for 150 years. So I guess he's a supernatural being. There are various people that hear the legend of the Chooper and they want to spend a night in the house and they get killed. Anytime anyone goes in there, they get killed. Now, Steckler didn't put himself in this movie, but he did put his wife in it. And he put their 2 daughters in it, which by this time in 1971 were like 5 and 6 years old. And they're in the movie quite a bit because, once again, there's a lot of filler. There's not enough money, I assume, to film a lot of action killing sequences. There's a lot of footage of the kids, like, playing, which obviously makes the movie not very interesting or flow well. There's like footage of the kids playing in the yard. There's footage of the kids jumping on the bed. A woman played by Carolyn Brandt inherits the property, and then this other guy whose character's name is Tim in the film tries to buy it from her. Meanwhile, there's this guy Daniel who takes care of the property, and he always warns everyone not to go into the house because the Chooper will get them. But, like, even though every time someone goes in the house, the Chooper kills them, people still, like, don't really believe that he exists. He's got 100% kill rate. I think the only people that go in the house and survive are the 2 children. They go and jump on the bed a little bit. Daniel seems to worship the Chooper. He doesn't want the house to be torn down. This guy Tim is going to buy it and tear it down. I think in the movie the 2 children are supposed to be Tim's children, and Carolyn Brandt's character really likes the children, wants to date Tim, but he's not interested. He only wants to buy the ranch. She's not interested in selling the ranch. There are multiple scenes where Carolyn Brandt's character take the children to the rodeo, and we just get a bunch of rodeo footage to pad out the film. I mean, it's not well done at all. I think the first time the Chooper kills someone, it's like a somewhat graphic with blood and stuff like that, but the other times, not so much. Also, it looks like he has a machete in this picture, but in the movie, he uses a sword, like, it looks like a medieval type sword, which doesn't make sense. Also, the Chooper is not ripped like this guy. I'm pretty sure he's just wearing like a black unitard. The opening credits show monsters, like that the Chooper is some kind of monster, but you never see the Chooper clearly. And in the end, you briefly think that the Chooper kills Daniel, okay? But then you find out that that wasn't the real Chooper, that was Tim. And the Chooper wouldn't actually kill Daniel because the Daniel's been protecting the Chooper. So Tim dresses up like the Chooper, kills Daniel, and then gets killed. In fact, I think Carolyn Brandt's character kills him with an axe. So there's a fair amount of craziness here, but it's poorly done. It's heavily padded by footage of the rodeo, like stock rodeo footage, and footage of children playing. Therefore, I give it a 2 out of 10. It's very hard to find. I would not put the effort into going out and finding it, but I must get some mild kick out of torturing myself with these extremely low budget movies. I feel like I appreciate them more when I watch a whole string of them, all made by the same director, especially when he's using the same actors over and over again. Something about it just makes me feel like this guy put so much effort into all this garbage that someone should watch it. And I know I'm not the only one out there, but some of this stuff is pretty obscure. So that's my little spiel on Ray Dennis Steckler. Luckily for all of us, he did not make another horror film until 1979, so we don't have to watch any more Steckler movies for probably multiple years, considering how long it takes me to do all these. So that's it. Blood Shack, also known as the Chooper. I don't know that it was worth making a 20-minute video on this, but there you have it. See you next time.